What's up, sports checkdown fans? This is my first video, and I would like to start off by addressing the trade that happened during the NBA trade deadline. And the one I'm talking about is the 4-team trade. But more specifically, I would like to focus on the Houston Rockets aspect of things. So the Rockets, they obviously, as you saw in the news, they're trying to go small ball. And the small ball is a controversial topic because people don't know if they can last with the big guys like the Los Angeles Lakers and the Utah Jazz and other teams of sorts that have big men that are pretty dominant, like the Nuggets. And the way they're gonna have their lineup is have 5 people starting, but none of them are gonna be over 6'6". And when they do this, they're sacrificing size, which would allow someone like Anthony Davis or Nikola Jokic or Rudy Gobert, who isn't even a special player on the offensive end, to dominate. Well, that's what people are saying. But I believe differently because the Rockets, when they are playing this lineup, they look pretty damn good. And when I say that, they recently played the Lakers and they beat them. They played the Phoenix Suns, which they lost by 30. But the big man didn't score by much. Like DeAndre Ayton, the big man, he didn't do anything special. And Russell Westbrook wasn't playing, so you can't take that game for anything. And then they lost to the Jazz. So I know they have a 1-2 record without Clint Capella officially on their roster. But the loss to the Jazz was just a lucky loss and a lucky win for the Jazz. This is because Bojan Bogdanovic, he hit a clutch shot in the end that they were pretty much hanging with. They had the win if Bojan didn't hit that shot. So if Bojan doesn't hit that shot, it's a different story. The Rockets are 2-1. They're dominating against all the teams that have big people, big centers, and they don't. But they lost. But that was just a very unlucky loss because they would have had the same result if they were with Clint Capella, because Rudy Gobert, he didn't do anything special in the game, but they still lost. But that was because Bojan's shot. And I feel as if they had Clint Capella, they would not be able to. They would either be way behind in the game because their pace was slower. They weren't playing as cohesive as an offensive unit, because this way Russell Westbrook has more space, James Harden has more space, every player has more space. So the lane is wide open, the paint is wide open for Russell Westbrook or James Harden to drive, or PJ Tucker or Eric Gordon or someone like Robert Covington or Austin Rivers are available on the corner or the top of the three-point line to shoot, and they'll have a basically open shot because everyone would go to help on them, on Russell Westbrook or James Harden, and they would just kick it out to the open man. But the problem with the small man lineup was obviously on defense. But Rudy Gobert and Anthony Davis didn't do anything special. Actually, Anthony Davis, he had 32 points, but again, he was averaging 29, so it wasn't that much of a spectacular performance against a 6'5" PJ Tucker, and they didn't lose much by the rebounds against the Lakers. I didn't check on the Jazz, but against the Lakers, they weren't losing any offensive rebounds or defensive, as they were only out-rebounded by 1 against the Lakers, and Anthony Davis didn't have a spectacular game. But against the Jazz, Anthony Davis did have 32, but it wasn't dominant. He dropped more points on the Pelicans, his old team. But the Jazz, they beat them, and that was because of Bojan's shot. I feel as if they had Clint Capella, they would have either been in the same situation. That was just a lucky shot because they managed to hang with the Jazz, who have a pretty good big man, all right? And then I feel their hardest test will come against the Nuggets whenever they play the Nuggets. But I feel like this lineup made them definitely a lot better because they added Robert Covington, a good perimeter defender, an excellent perimeter defender at that, and an excellent three-point shooter, as he'll have much more open looks with Russell Westbrook and James Harden than he did in Minnesota. Along with that, there is also the negative of not having a lot of size. And with the negative of not having a lot of size, it didn't seem to overly kill them in the matches they've played, except for the Suns one, but I don't think Ayton did anything special. I feel like he would have done the same thing against Clint Capella, or maybe a little worse, obviously, because Clint's taller, plays better defense than PJ Tucker would in the restricted area and the paint area. But Otherwise, besides that, they didn't do anything special that every analytics of ESPN or Fox were mentioning that they were going to do. So I don't absolutely hate the trade. I actually kind of like it because I feel like this adds another dynamic to the Rockets, and this is such a high reward, high risk, but high reward situation. And Daryl Morey, as we all know, is a very high risk, high reward person. And I feel like this is a no risk it, no biscuit, as Bruce Arians of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers used to say. But that's a different sport. But I feel like the Rockets are going all in, and I feel like whoever they face in the playoffs with this lineup, they can really pose some trouble. But this depends on if they're shooting their threes. If we get the Game 7 Rockets against the Golden State Warriors in the playoff series 2 years ago in 2018, then they won't stand a chance. But even if they shoot average, well, I feel like they will have a good chance at winning the game because their average shooting, they will be shooting a lot of three-pointers. So their average shooting would still be a good shooting night because if they're shooting like 40% from the three-point line or 35, they're shooting so many three-pointers that it will make up for the missed shots they have had. And so they will be trading threes for twos, obviously. So I feel like this Rockets team could make a lot of noise. And I feel like they could take on any team in the playoffs. I mean, obviously they don't want to face the Lakers until all the way in the later round. I feel like they can take any other team. Being said that, I don't think the Lakers are the best team. I just think they're the worst team for the Rockets to face. I think the Clippers or the Houston Rockets are the best team, but I would say the Rockets would much rather face the Clippers in the playoffs than they would rather face the Lakers because there's still the potential of Anthony Davis having a much better night than a 32-point night, which is crazy to say, but Anthony Davis should be posting up more points than that just on the Rockets. 6'5" PJ Tucker. But when PJ Tucker was guarding the centers, I have an interesting stat. Only for Anthony Davis because he is the best big man, or maybe it might be Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid, but that's up for debate. But Anthony Davis, he shot 3 for 10 against PJ Tucker. And so that is 30%. That's absolutely atrocious, especially as a center whose bad games are considered like 44% or something like that. And so 30% is atrocious. So I think PJ Tucker can hold his own down there. And they're going to have Robert Covington or Russell Westbrook or whoever to help out on. Because some teams such as the Lakers, Clippers, or Jazz, or anybody that have their players on the court, one player will not be able to shoot. So, for example, for the Lakers, LeBron was on an off night, so they could have sagged off him. But usually they can sag off Kyle Kuzma, who isn't hitting his shots very often, or JaVale McGee or you don't want to help out on JaVale McGee actually, but you could help out on Caruso or someone else on the Lakers. I'm blanking on their starting lineup. Or if you're playing the Clippers, to help out on Montrez, which I don't think PJ would actually need help on. Or so if you're playing Ivica Zubac, which PJ Tucker might need help in, I would say you would leave Patrick Beverley open, who I know he's recently hitting his shots, but he isn't a spectacular shooter or even a great shooter. He's close to average to below average. And then for the Utah Jazz, I would say when you go to double team Rudy Gobert, whose game isn't even that special, you could sag off someone such as Mike Conley, who hasn't been hitting his shots as much, which you don't want to, but if that's one person, that's not going to kill you. And lastly, for the Nuggets, I would say probably Nikola Jokic would probably be shooting more jumpers, what I've seen from him when I watch his game, so I don't think there's as much need to help out, but we'll see when the Rockets play the Jazz. But overall, I would give this trade an A because this is exactly what the Rockets were trying to do. Only reason I'm giving them an A or an A- close to that is because they gave up a first-round pick, which I don't think was necessary if they were already giving away Clint Capella. And that this was all to bring in Robert Covington and Jordan Bell, who I think might get minutes, but we'll see. Thank you guys, and always please subscribe. It will help me a lot. And this was Sports Checkdown.